They say that all good things must end.
Oh, there's a cloud of smoke on the bus, and no taxes have been paid. Willie Nelson is back to begin a Monday edition of the Press Pros Magazine Monday Huddle. I'm Bruce Hooley. Sonny Fulks is laughing alongside as we get ready for a visit from Division I State Baseball Championship coach Dave Starling at around 10 or a quarter after the hour. We're happy to have you guys with us tonight on Facebook, on Twitter via Periscope, on perhaps the PressProsMagazine.com page. I don't know if we've got that set up or not, but however you're joining us, and I see a lot of people are joining us, we appreciate it. Hopefully we have some new viewers tonight in Central Ohio.
Good.
Because head coach Dave Starling will be joining us of the D1 champion New Albany Eagles. And Sonny, you covered the Eagles in Canal Park, and I covered them in the regional final against Olentangy Orange. Nice baseball team with a lot of nice players.
A lot of good players and great coach. Obviously, he right now is the Pied Piper of baseball in Central Ohio. They ought to be beating a path to his door. So it'd be nice to talk to Dave. Met him for the first time there. Very impressed with him. Just like the cut of his jib in the dugout. He did a great job, and I thought had two outstanding wins there. You know, in the semifinal, and of course, when you beat Elver and hold them off the way he did to win 6-5. There was a little pressure, a little stress, a little goo-goo going on there in the sixth inning. And I was very impressed by the New Albany Eagles.
Yes, very good. Good team. Brady Conley nailing it down as the closer. Both games, Brock Tibbetts headed to Indiana. Ian Hoff's a nice player. I think it's Andrew Eckelberry, their center fielder, made a nice catch in the semifinals. A lot of timely hits. And Elijah Griffith with a really good start. Hoff started the first game. So congratulations to them. They're a team that 2 years ago felt like they should have been in the Final Four. They got upset by Upper Arlington in the regionals. Last year, of course, nobody got to play. So these guys, much like the Bradford girls in softball, have had their eyes on a state championship for a long time. And I would have to think it's sweeter when you finally get it. I know in my high school years, our cross-country team, we won the state my junior and senior year. My sophomore year, we should have won it. Our best runner was in a car accident. He couldn't run. We got third place. We knew we were the best team in Ohio. It's hard when you know you're the best and you can't prove it on the field, so we're glad for Bradford and the Miller sisters and the Bradford Railroaders, and we're happy for the New Albany Eagles and head coach Dave Starling that they were finally able to get that prize and, lift that trophy at the end of the year.
Well, and I was talking to a Division I college coach from here in the state this morning, and he said, the interesting thing about New Albany was that's a team of late bloomers that he said all really came together this year. And he says, ironically, for the fact that you don't play last year, you have no season, and some of those kids may not have played summer baseball. Some maybe not have played as high a level of summer baseball as what they would have normally. And he said, that there's enough talent on that team, and it all came together at just the right time for them. He said, and he mentioned the Tibbetts kid. He said, 2 years ago, he wasn't a prospect he is right now. And suddenly he became a great high school catcher.
Yeah, I was going to say, that kid looks to me like he's got major league talent. I mean, he's certainly got a major league arm, and he's a big kid. He's the kind of kid that they're going to put more weight on at Indiana, and something tells me that Ohio State is going to see him in the future, and hopefully it's not in their nightmares. I don't wish bad things for Brock Tibbetts, but that's a guy that you wonder, was Ohio State set at the catching position, or did they get in late on Brock Tibbetts, or what's the situation? Because that young man looks like he's going to play a lot more baseball.
I know Ohio State does have a nice kid coming in that they like, but Tibbetts, is better eye candy behind the plate than what Kyle Schwarber was as catcher at Indiana, right at Middletown. So anyway, he really impressed me the way he threw. Had some great timely hitting in that tournament. We'll talk with Dave Starling about all of that.
Well, and Orange, this kind of a thing can work to Orange's advantage next season because Orange was ranked number 2 in the state when New Albany beat them in the regional finals, and they've got Matt Wolf, who's already committed to Vanderbilt as a junior, coming back next season to build around. So, Olentangy Orange is not going anywhere, and Central Ohio baseball at the D1 level is really, really good. And so perhaps we'll see, I would be not surprised at all to see a Central Ohio team in the state Final Four in the D1 tournament next year. And obviously, the teams that we have in the MAC and the Shelby County League, outstanding teams over there. Russia had a great year. Fort Laramie had a great year. And, we've been blessed this year at Press Pro, Sonny. We've had we've had champions in every season. We had 2 champions in football. We had Botkins and Fort Loramie girls in basketball. We've got Bradford, and we got New Albany in baseball. Obviously, Justin Braun in track from Westerville South. Pick North wins the state boys track. I lost track of the track. Outstanding performers over there in Miami, Dark, Shelby, Auglaize County, but I know the Minster program is outstanding in track. So, hey, we love athletes who achieve high, and we love to cover them at PressProsMagazine.com.
Well, I know you believe in providence and fate, and we get in on Division I baseball in Central Ohio just the right time. A little bit of smell of it this year, but in earnest, obviously, for next year. And going back to the being fortunate to have state championship teams over here to cover this year, I can't remember. We go back 12 years. We will celebrate our 10th anniversary at Press Pros on our 12th anniversary on August the 10th. I can't think of one time in 12 years when we haven't had a state champion over here in either the MAC, Shelby County League, or in this area to cover, or the GWAC to cover in the state, one of the state championships, football, basketball, and baseball. So, yeah, we have been blessed in that 12 years.
And we have people joining us on Facebook tonight and sending in their kudos. Debbie says, loved your article on Press Pros, Mr. Fulks. Now, Debbie, what about my story on Acme League Baseball? You didn't like my Acme League Baseball story?
And which article is it? Because I've only written about 1,000 of them.
You said your article on Press Pros is awesome. Good Father's Day story.
Father's Day story.
That was very well done. So
about him, and he's been gone a decade now. He died in 2011, and just the things that happen and the way our world has changed and the culture has changed. And my dad would shake his head. He'd be, to use the term, he'd be spinning if he could come back and see what's happened since he's been gone.
Yeah, well, a lot of that going on. By the way, we have breaking news tonight. According to the World Health Organization, they are recommending a pause on vaccines for high school students. This is big news. This is worldwide news. And this is something that I talked with you about over the weekend, Sonny, when Mike DeWine and officials from the OHSAA got together late last week at Worthington High School, where Mike DeWine's son-in-law is the cross-country and track coach. And Governor DeWine, I will say this up front about Governor DeWine. I do not and never have doubted his sincerity and his good intentions. We can quibble about the politics. We can quibble about a lot of things, but I do believe that he is well-intentioned. That said, I think that he, in speaking about advocating for kids to get vaccinated at a time when the vaccine rate in the state of Ohio is 42%, I think that was a case of a big Cincinnati Reds fan in Mike DeWine misreading the scoreboard. And what I would say to him is, if only 42% of adults in the state of Ohio have been vaccinated, the other 58% have a very definite opinion on why they have not been vaccinated. And probably a big portion of that 58% has kids. And if the adults have not been vaccinated, I don't think it's practical nor wise for a governor to advocate the kids getting vaccinated under the guise of, hey, we need you to get vaccinated so we can have a season this fall. I'm not going to debate the politics of the vaccine. I'm just saying that's a case where the parents made a decision for themselves, and most likely the parent is also going to make the same decision for the teenager. And I thought the governor, I understand his intentions, and now it seems a bit of a moot point that we've had, unfortunately, some deaths of some young people and some medical situations people can't explain. And the WHO has advocated tonight a pause in vaccines for teenagers.
Well, it's unfortunate, as you say, and it's one of those things where you don't want to hold somebody. You don't want to make. You don't want to feel like you're being held hostage, for the sake of your kids if they want to play high school volleyball or football. And I'll leave it at that. And it feels that way. I heard what he said over the weekend, and I know that 50% of the people in this state are dubious about any kind of if it's a threat or if it's this is what you got to do. It's like last year when he said if you want to have a season, this is what you got to do. Well, there were a lot of communities that barely had a season last year, couldn't sell tickets. He wouldn't allow them to sell tickets. And now they're under the threat of even having a season this year because, their budget got stripped last year because they couldn't sell $50,000, $60,000 a ticket. You go to the little Division 4, 5, 6, 7 schools down in parts of southern Ohio, they don't have those kind of bake sales where they can come back and pay for a football season and pay for helmets and pads and things like that. So this is it's an unfortunate thing. It's a timely thing, and it's going to put a lot of people on alert. And I think it's going to make a heightened situation even worse now over the next 60 days for the OHSAA, certainly for the Ohio Department of Health. Certainly at the head of the list is going to be Mike DeWine because he's banged that drum loud and long. Mm-hmm. And as you say, probably is well-intentioned. But at the end of the day, when it comes down to things like this and telling people what you have to do to play football, sounds like a politician.
Yeah, and the tweet, the breaking news comes from the Twitter account, verified Twitter account of Dr. Marty Makary. He says the World Health Organization has just formally recommended, quote, children should not be vaccinated for the moment, quote, unquote. Many countries have done the same. The cluster of heart complications are being observed within days of the second vaccine dose. The heart complication most often cited is myocarditis. And if you're someone who followed closely the Big Ten's kind of halting arrival at playing last fall, you know that the Big Ten's hang up with playing was that many, in its mind, athletes were showing signs of myocarditis, which is an inflammation around the heart muscle that can detract from the oxygen supplying capacity of the heart, which is obviously important for athletes who are in high stress, athletic endeavors and need oxygen to their muscles. So myocarditis is the side effect. This doesn't mean it's a final decision, but it means that they're recommending right now that kids not get vaccinated. So that's where we are at this point in time.
Let's talk about sports.
All right, good deal. So I just wanted to inform people on that and let them know what's going on. We'll get Dave Starling, the head coach at New Albany, on the line, and then we'll share some of our Reader Speaks items with the rest of you. And the Eagles took care of business at the regional level, at the state level. And Coach Dave Starling joins us now here on the Press Pros Magazine Monday Night Huddle. Dave, thanks so much for your time tonight. And have you come down off the top of the mountain yet?
The answer to that question is no. It's, just such an exciting experience that, and I was just so elated for our young men because of, everything they had done, what they had put into that, and to see that type of result. Yeah, I think that's going to last for quite a while.
Dave, it's one thing to win a title. It's another thing to win in the manner in which you did. And this is Sonny Fulks talking with you. You're up 6-1, and it looks like easy streets coming along because your starting pitcher gave you everything you wanted. You told me the night before in the semifinal, if he can get us through the fifth, if we can get some timely hits, if we can just relax and play our game. Well, you got every bit of that. And then the final thing you said, if our bullpen shows up, and then what Brady Conley did to retire the last 4 outs of that game, or the last 5 outs of that game, was almost unworldly. So it couldn't have worked out better for you. And I'm sure to win 6-5 the way you did, when they had the case of the goo-goo for you that they had, I'm sure, coming in the 7th inning, makes that win all the more sweeter.
Well, absolutely. We had that bit of a hiccup in the 6th, but the one thing that our young men had were they were so focused all the way through this, and you certainly couldn't tell them that there was anybody they couldn't compete with. And as far as the pressure situations, they handled those with just tremendous insight. And I mean, it was just, and to think that you're starting this game off with a young man that he began this season on the JV roster. The young man Griffith has started the state championship game. But, you know, and Brady, I mean, breaks his wrist on the first day of practice. So, you know, we don't have him 3/4 of the season. You know, and he comes back and is lights out every time that he takes the mound. And, you know, as far as pressure situations, I don't know if you could put a young man in any more than he was in, especially that 6th inning with 1st and 3rd and 1 out and tying run 90 feet from home plate. I mean, that I don't know how more pressure packed it can get. But boy, I'll tell you what, he made pitches. You know, his strike to ball ratio was just phenomenal. And it's like we preached all year long with our pitching staff. It's, you know, guys, we just got to keep the ball in play, keep ourselves out of trouble. Don't put people on base, and just keep it in play. And you know, they were tremendous doing that. But yeah, it's, you know, I am so proud of them, the way they handled this, and it's just the type of young men they are, the families they come from, you know, the community they're from. It's just everything fit together, and you know, I am so proud to bring that title back to New Albany.
Dave, this was your second trip to the state tournament, Final Four, first time at Reynoldsburg, this time at New Albany. You've got some kids that are going to be continuing to play baseball at the college level. I know Brock Tibbetts is going to go to Indiana. Brady Conley is going to go to Rio Grande. Take us through who are your other guys, and what do the Eagles prospects look like for next year?
Well, the other ones that are moving on collegiately, AC Klaus, who, believe it or not, is going to Adrian, which, you know, I know you're aware that it's probably one of the best D3 programs in the country, but they recruited him as a catcher, you know, and he made a position change to third base and was just outstanding. You know, how well he adapted to that was just phenomenal. And then Maddox Mead, our starting second baseman, he'll be going to Rio Grande with Brady. You know, tremendous defensive player and helped solidify our middle infield. But, you know, we started 4 sophomores in that game last Sunday night. And, you know, having those young men back, the juniors coming back, I mean, you know, even Oliver Cush, who's a middle infielder, you know, we put him in left field. And, I mean, you couldn't have told the difference. I mean, you would have thought he was an outfielder his entire life. Just made tremendous plays. And he's just such a tremendous athlete. But, you know, we got Andrew Eckleberry back in center field, and in my opinion, I know I'm biased, but I think he's probably one of the best center fielders around.
Well, he sure made a nice catch in the semifinal.
Oh boy, yeah, that was definitely an ESPN highlight. But you know, we've got great talent coming back. You know, the big thing with our seniors this year was the leadership that they provided. And, you know, that's the big thing we're going to look for the, you know, underclassmen making the jump is to maintain that, you know, maintain the approach that they had to the game. You know, and it was pretty much just like I told them starting in the regional that, hey, take a deep breath. You know, we're playing the game of baseball. Don't worry about the name that's on the other side of the field. Just play your game. And they bought into that and played the games pretty well.
You know, Dave, you know it's a small world when I can sit here and tell you that I played with A.C. Klaus's grandfather at Ohio State 50 years ago. Richie Klaus.
These stories that are servicing, but you're certainly right. It is a small world.
Yeah, Richie Klaus was my third baseman at Ohio State when I played for Dick Finn and Marty Carew back in the 70s. But I want to go back and talk baseball again and talk about Brady Conley and what he did for those last 5 outs. I don't know of people sitting in the stands. Parents, I certainly do. But I want you to talk about and let people know how hard it was to come in the situation that he did and throw strikes when you knew they were sitting on the fastball and he threw the fastball by him.
You know, and he's sneaky quick. You know, the ball gets on you so quick. And I mean, he has great stuff. I mean, and his location is tremendous, but I was hoping to be able to hold off until the 7th to get to him, especially since he threw the night before. But he only threw 12 pitches in the semi, and of course 10 of those were strikes. He threw 22 pitches in the state championship game, and 17 of those were strikes. But that sixth inning with runners at first and third, 1 out, and I mean the people that were there, I know they were excited, but I don't know if most of those people understood the magnitude of that strikeout for the second out of that inning. Because now a fly ball, doesn't hurt us. Of course, the last out of the inning was the fly ball, but to get that strikeout for the second out of the sixth was just absolutely huge. And again, he faced 5 hitters in that state championship game, struck out 3 of them. He just, I told him, I said, you're probably going to be a legend in New Albany now. And I'll tell you, it's just a phenomenal feat. It's almost like a movie script.
Yeah, and he did that against the meat of their order too.
Well, I know that. And we certainly were talking about that, going into that inning. But I trusted him explicitly. He handles the pressure so well. And I knew that he was not going to put anybody on base. So it was, hey, here we go. And he's going to go out there and challenge hitters. And he just did an excellent job with that and located well. And, and everybody was extremely happy with the result.
Well, Dave, I'm thinking back to the Orange game in the regional finals, and Elijah Griffith pitched outstanding as a starter for you in that game. He pitched out of a big jam in that game against Orange's, number 2 and number 3 hitter. He got Matt Wolf and the guy behind Matt Wolf in the lineup. And then Brady came in later on and retired Matt Wolf again. And Matt's going to play a lot of baseball in his life, starting at Vanderbilt after he finishes his career at Orange next year. So you guys, it feels to me like, have been in tight situations before you faced it in that Sunday night championship game.
Oh, without a doubt. And it goes back to the district semis against Watkins Memorial. They jumped on us early. We came back and made it a 4-3 game in the 6th, but then they put 2 more on the board in the top of the 7th. And, you're looking at a 3-run deficit going to the bottom of the 7th inning. And it's like, whoa, that just, that changes your whole philosophy. Your strategy changes. You can't give up any outs to move runners. And, we just kept producing and producing. And I don't know, we put like 4 hits together. But I told them after that game that something like that will catapult you through tournament play. And yeah, they did. They faced the adversity. They faced the pressure early on. And it's almost like these guys welcomed it, as we went to the state Final Four. And again, they were convinced that they were going to bring a trophy home. And I'll tell you what, their approach, their attitude, again, like I said, and I know it gets redundant, but it's just, I don't know if you could be more proud of young men and how they handled themselves in those tough situations. It's just absolutely amazing.
Well, you're allowed to be proud. And I was waiting here for you to say that Brady Conley came in and did it just like you coached him.
Well, I did tell him, when he walked back out to the 7th inning, I just looked at him as I was coming off the field and I said, let's win a game. But he knew, he knew what his job was. We just try to teach them to be as efficient as they possibly can with each pitch, and they understand that the most important pitch they're going to throw is the next one. So, no, I'm not, I'm not going to take all the credit. It's these guys, they stepped up and, they faced adversity and I'll tell you what, they certainly performed and, especially on that stage. It's just a tremendous feat.
I want to talk a little bit, just real quickly, about a philosophy of baseball and the fact that nobody played last year. And I think you would agree with me. And I watched 100 baseball games this spring between high school and college, that nobody benefited from not playing baseball in 2020. And I think one of the things that I saw this year that was particularly telling was the fact that so many teams had trouble with the fastball. It seemed like the pitchers were ahead of the hitters all year, even in the Big Ten. where you got guys that suddenly went away last year throwing 90-91, came back this year throwing 93-95, and it really looked like hitters at every level had trouble getting on the fastball. Did you see that, or did you see something else that was that really stood out as a result of kids not playing last year?
Well, I mean, that certainly took a toll. I mean, hitting is all about timing. And when you lose those repetitions, when you're looking at possibly getting, 80 to 100 at-bats in the spring, I mean, that certainly makes a difference. And then, once they get into their travel programs, I know there's some people out there that are coaching summer ball that are just doing tremendous jobs and helping young men get better. But, a lot of times it's just they have an opportunity to play, they put them on the field, and, I mean, they're not really being coached, and then they just kind of reinforce bad habits. So then they carry that over into the spring of 21, and, there's a gap. Absolutely there was a gap. But I'll tell you, that's will forever be a sore spot, not having a 2020 season, because, we had such tremendous young men coming back that we never had an opportunity to play with. And I just simply missed the opportunity to be around them because they were just such great individuals. But, this 2021 team kind of shouldered that, carried that weight on their shoulders. And they talked a lot about, accomplishing things that those guys would have probably had the opportunity to do, but never had. And, my hat's off to them. I'll tell you what, I just don't think the season could have gone any better. It's especially that tournament run. It was just what an experience, what a ride.
Well, it's hard to go better when you end up hoisting the trophy at the end, and it was a thrill for us to share in it at the end with you and to cover it. And we appreciate your availability. Your kids were just the best to deal with, Coach, and that's a reflection on you and your staff and, all your administrators at New Albany. I mean, they just couldn't have been more polite, more respectful. And so thank you for that. We look forward to featuring a lot more New Albany athletics in the future as we expand into Central Ohio and begin to cover the OCC intensely now that COVID is behind us and we don't have to deal with uncertainty on a football schedule. So you'll be seeing a lot more of Press Pros at your future games, and we just thank you for welcoming us as you have so far.
Well, I certainly appreciate this opportunity. I know I had the opportunity to tell Bruce how much I respect the work that you guys do, but that means a lot. I really, really appreciate that compliment. It does speak highly of our young men, and that's just the type of people they are. They've had great upbringings, and they're all going to be very successful in life outside the game of baseball for sure.
Dave, let me throw this compliment at you. This kind of makes you the Casey Stengel of the OCC, and I wonder if there's anybody in the OCC that even remembers Casey Stengel.
It's funny you mention that because we'd tell stories to the young men, our guys, and you'd mention a name or whatever, and they'd look at you like, Coach, what are you talking about? And you're probably right. I mean, there's probably a lot of people that don't remember Casey Stengel.
Well, they're going to remember the New Albany Eagles in 2021. We know that because state champions live forever, and you guys did it in thrilling fashion, and you did it against the legit program in all of Division I, and you don't cheat Elder out of anything. You got to earn that, and you guys did it. So congratulations, Dave. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. Enjoy that title, and we'll look forward to seeing you again very soon.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
You bet.
You bet, Coach. Thanks.
That's Dave Starling, your head coach at the New Albany Eagles and your Division I state champions.
What a great interview.
Very nice guy. Very nice guy.
Very great to talk to.
I mean, it's not a coincidence when you have class kids and then you interview the head coach and you find out, oh, head coach is a class guy too. Those two things tend to go together.
Taught Brady Conley everything he knows.
That's right. Win the game. Let's win the game.
Let's win a game.
That's good advice. All right. Reader speaks, and then we'll get on out of here tonight.
Some people who have written to us recently, and I wanted to deal with it. We just talked about the state baseball tournament, and we got This from a gentleman named James Meeker from, he says, Butler County, who is kind enough to write and say the best coverage by far of the state baseball tournament finals. Really enjoyed seeing baseball get the same kind of priority as basketball and football. Enjoyed it a lot, and I will be a Press Pros reader. So, James, appreciate that.
Yes. Did we talk last week about the state football tournament being at Paul Brown? Well, it's not at Paul Brown. It's at Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium.
But it was at Paul Brown last year.
Yes, but we said it would be at Massillon again. We thought it'd be at Massillon again because the OHSAA keeps talking about they can't afford high rental fees, and the Pro Football Hall of Fame must have given them a great deal. All the football title games are going to be at Hall of Fame Stadium, which I think is phenomenal.
Yep.
I can't wait to go there. I'm super excited about the high school football season this year, and who knows what teams we'll have up there.
Well, let me share this with you.
Yeah.
You're not going to enjoy that elevator ride. That's one of the weirdest elevator setups in Tom Benson Stadium I've ever seen. It's like riding the subway in New York. You've got to get off, you got to get on. It's
Well, now here's a thing for you to consider, Mr. Fulks. Tom Benson, the owner of the New Orleans Saints, put a lot of money into that remodel project up there so they could put his name on the stadium, and it's entirely possible that in the renovation that elevator has been upgraded.
No, the elevator is post-renovation.
You sure about that?
I think it's what killed Tom Benson when he looked at it and saw what it was and what you had to do to go from the ground floor to the.
My name's on that. I paid that much, and my
name's
name's on
that. Elizabeth, this is the big one.
This is the big one. I'm going to join you.
I'm going to, yeah, sure did. Hey, here's one regarding the softball tournament. Came from Dana Elsesser, who was kind enough to write, "It was great to see your coverage of the state tournament in softball and long overdue."
Oh, thank you. That's like a humble brag right there. That's like a thank you with a little take that with you.
And
shout out to Greg Billing. Great coverage of the Bradford.
Yes, and to Julie McMcEnright too.
Amen.
And Dana, all I can say is World Peace is long overdue too, and I can't imagine writing to that complaint department. So I don't know. It is what it is. So we had a good time. We owe a lot in covering softball this year to area coaches, athletic administrators, and some of our sponsors who ended up and made it a possibility. And we can't do it without them, nor, as I like to say, do we want to.
This is my Press Pros mantra, Dana. We can't be everywhere all the time, but we can be somewhere some of the time.
And there's a country music song written about something like that too. Right. Read your coverage of the amateur baseball event in Versailles this weekend. That just happened.
Classic.
Just concluded yesterday, the Craig Stammen Classic. And I fail to understand why you have so little respect for travel baseball. And Dave Starling was just talking about travel baseball a moment ago. This comes from Tim in Vandalia. Well, Tim, has nothing to do with the baseball itself. No. My issue with travel baseball has nothing to do with kids who can afford to play, who want to play 60 games in a year, have the opportunity to play, and have that kind of talent. My issue has always been with the kids left behind in those communities like Covington, and since I live in Covington, or Troy or Pickler, someplace like that, who don't get selected or don't have $1,500 or $2,500 or whatever it costs to play. And the issue are those kids, or the average kids, or the late bloomers. They're not stupid. I mean, if they don't get somebody that says, I want him, but I don't want you on my travel baseball team. The first thing that goes through my mind, if I'm in that situation, is, well, he must not think I'm very good. So why am I wasting my time trying to play baseball? I'll go do something else. And I can tell you the major leagues have been full over the years of late bloomers and average kids who suddenly, when they were 18, 19, and 20 years old, got a heck of a lot better than they were when they were 15 and 16. The issue I have with travel baseball is you leave those kids behind. When you take the best kids out of that baseball community, now they have no higher standard, their buddies, if you will, to play with and improve by just osmosis, by being around those guys every day on the field, in practice. That's where you learn to get better. You see Jimmy over here and Joe over there, and you think, boy, those guys throw harder than I, they catch better than I, they do everything better than I do. And suddenly, just by being around and throwing and catching and hitting and playing the game with those guys and watching them, you get better too. And that's a concern in community baseball. And it's one of the things that stands out in the Versailles tournament. All those kids from Coldwater, St. Henry, Versailles, Fort Recovery, Fort Loramie, Russia, those are all kids that play together on the same community team. You know, from 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, right up the line till they get to high school. And I think there's a lot of benefit from that. You talk about just getting better. You talk about being teammate. You're talking about everything that comes with being part of a community like that and a baseball community like that. That's my issue with travel baseball. When you suck out the best kids and leave the rest of them behind, and they may sit there and say, hey, I'll get a job, make $12, $15 an hour. I don't need to play baseball. They don't think I can play anyway.
Yeah, and I would say from a community standpoint, from an interest standpoint, the travel baseball team, you may have 1 or 2 kids from our coverage area. Nobody's going to know the other kids if we write about that team. But if you're writing about an Acme team from Fort Loramie or an Acme team from Sydney or someplace like that, you're going to know, you're going to have some general community interest in that team just because they're probably going to know every kid who's mentioned in the story. So, we cover, if we had a kid who was going to go top 10 in a baseball draft and he was playing on an elite travel baseball team and he came into our coverage area, would we go do a story on the next Ken Griffey Jr.? Sure, we probably would, because it has widespread audience interest. But at Press Pros, we're always trying to balance audience interest with where have we been before? Have we hit everybody? So a lot goes into why we do what we do, and we're often, asked, and we're more than happy to explain it to you. But that's part of the reason why we do what we do. And I think everybody knows that Sonny loves baseball. He's a supporter of amateur baseball, and his site covers a lot of amateur baseball. So that's probably not going to change.
We also had somebody forward a Facebook post today to say, is it really necessary, going back to the for sales thing this weekend, is it necessary that we be writing about kids' games when they're 12 years old? Well, I think it kind of is from the standpoint, if you're 12, 13, 14 years old, it's a little bit of an incentive to know that somebody is watching. It's nice to clip, particularly in this days of social media, when you can flip on the internet and here's a picture of you and your buddies playing baseball. I mean, that's everywhere.
I would have loved that when I was 12 years old. Let me tell you.
You're talking about an incentive that puts baseball, suddenly amateur baseball, on the level of high school Friday night football or basketball or something like that. That's the biggest incentive I can think of to do that, because it makes those kids want to work harder, want to get to the next level of play and performance. And I'm going to continue to do that, just simply to let those kids know that, people are paying attention. You don't have to play football or basketball on Friday and Saturday night just to get a little attention. It's why we did softball this year. It's why we do bowling. It's why we do a lot of things, because these are kids that oftentimes fall through the crack and nobody sees them. So, we're happy to do this. And besides that, the people in Versailles couldn't be nicer. They couldn't be more supportive and easier to deal with. Chad Treon does a great job over there of organizing that. I know it's Craig Stammen's Amateur Baseball Classic, but he's got a good cadre of people behind him, dotting the I's and crossing the T's, and they couldn't have been nicer. By the way, there's another great one coming up here in another month up in Minster. Mike Wisson, all the guys up there, his volunteers and coaches and people like that. There'll be another 50 teams that come in there, plus softball, that come in there and play in that event in Minster next month, and we'll be there.
Very good. Anything else from the Reader Speaks tonight, or shall we give people their rest of their Monday evening back?
Well, I want to tell you, I think there's some great isn't College World Series on tonight? You're talking about good baseball, Bruce Hooley. Those games, that 6-5 game the other night, or 7-6 game in 12 innings, where Vanderbilt won. You don't see better baseball than that. I think they were playing, I can't even remember now, South Carolina or someplace like that. But Vanderbilt squandered an early lead and came back and tied it and went 6-6 in the 12th inning. It was just compelling baseball to watch. And so that's on this week, and it doesn't get any better than that if you're a baseball fan.
Very good. Well, thank you, sir, for your time this evening. It's good to see everybody. If you're watching the replay, thanks for doing that. Thanks to Dave Starling, the head coach at New Albany, for joining us tonight. Congrats again to the Eagles for winning the Division I state baseball championship, and to the Bradford Railroader girls softball team for winning the D4 state baseball championship. And congrats to Fort Loramie on making the state Final Four in baseball, and to Rushi for getting to the regional finals. Remember our sponsors. If you see a sponsor and they're a sponsor of Press Pros, thank them for supporting our coverage of amateur sports. And if you're watching in Central Ohio, we are expanding into Central Ohio, not at the expense of our inaugural coverage area that has been extremely good to us for the better part of a decade. But if you are in Central Ohio and you'd like to own market exclusivity in Westerville, Worthington, Hilliard, Dublin, Upper Arlington, let us know. Let us know. The reader speaks at PressProsMagazine.com.
Let me ask you this now. Did Dave Starling best the numbers for the Miller sisters from Bradford a couple weeks ago?
No, the Miller sisters crushed it. The Miller sisters crushed it.
I don't think
they had more advanced billing than Dave Starling did, because we weren't sure we could get Dave audio-wise hooked up tonight. So Austin and Skip had a little bit more advanced billing and had the home field advantage, so to speak. But there will be a day where our Central Ohio audience will have the advantage in terms of size of crowd, unlike now where Bradford had the edge that night.
Casey doesn't care. He's got his ring to wear, and he's fine with it.
Absolutely right. Well, Truman, it's time to go to bed. Sonny, I bid you adieu, and we'll see all of you again next week on Monday night at 8 o'clock for the PressProsMagazine.com Monday Night Huddle. Thank you, and good night.
Watch the College World Series.